Now it is time for our mystery guest. I have no idea who it is, but thankfully my producers have given me and you a few hints. He faces a similar dilemma that many in the nonprofit sector face these days: costs versus institutional integrity. His background is in investment banking, and his institution is one of about 100 museums located in Manhattan. And the museum's mission is to preserve some uniquely American items by some artists you probably have never even heard of. Let's go ahead and bring out our mystery guest. Thanks very much for joining us.
So glad to be here today. Thank you.
It says museum, so I got to go through a list of museums. I mean, I'm assuming that you're not the head of MoMA.
That's true.
And you're not the head of the Metropolitan Museum.
Nor that.
Nor that. So I'm just trying to think in maybe the sort of relative terms here. We go down a little bit of a list. There's the Museum of Arts and Design. No, that's not registering.
No.
How about the American Folk Art Museum?
That's...
Are you associated with this?
I'm associated with that.
Oh, I stopped you there. All right, great.
Yeah,
now,
that's good.
Something has happened. I know that there's been a big change at the American Folk Art Museum. You used to be located in Midtown. You sold your building to MoMA.
To MoMA last summer.
And now I believe where you're located, you're on Broadway in Manhattan, but in a much smaller facility. Are you the curator? Are you the chairman of the board?
I'm the president.
You're the president. Well, welcome. I got to say, I don't know your name, but I know the museum very well. Please tell me your name. I got 40 seconds.
Yeah, I'm Monty Blanchard.
Monty Blanchard. Great. And yes, I remember reading you were instrumental in trying to make this move happen and sell the land to MoMA.
There were a number of us. Laura Parsons was our chair, and she was the key catalyst of what we did. But we were one of those entities that built a house that we couldn't afford. And it was a great house, and we loved it on 53rd Street next to MoMA. But eventually we realized that in order to preserve the museum and fulfill our mission of getting our art out to the world, we needed to sell the building and retrench to a space we'd had actually since 1989. So we'd been in a Lincoln Square gallery since 1989. Even when we were on 53rd Street, we were doing shows in Lincoln Square. And that's now our home, and we're rebuilding from that base.
Well, I guess many in the housing industry, they could have taken your advice and they would have come out even better. So how has the move gone? I mean, as you mentioned, you sold the property to MoMA. What happened? Did you get more money and now you've got some money that you can work from?
In 2000, when we built the building, we took out a $30 million municipal bond that eventually we were not able to pay. And fortunately, we were able to sell the building for a sufficient amount of money to pay off the bond, have a little bit of excess. We faced a crisis that was reported in the press about actually, in effect, transferring the art of the museum to another museum. And in September, the board made a commitment to continued independent existence. One of our trustees, Joyce Cowan, made a significant pledge to the survival of the museum, and other trustees stood up, and we committed, and I took over as president.
All right, you're going to tell us more about the museum, tell us about some of the art, some of the exhibitions. Monty Blanchard, thanks very much for being here, talking about the American Folk Art Museum. More with our mystery guest, a mystery no longer. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pim Fox. We're here with our mystery guest, a mystery no longer, Monty Blanchard of the American Museum of Folk Art. He is the president of the Board of Trustees. Monty, tell me about the museum itself, because one of the things I was just talking about during the break is I always messed up the name of it, and the idea being that folk art is not going to just be limited to what's made in the United States.
It's actually the American Folk Art Museum.
Got it.
And it's a museum primarily devoted to art from the Americas, and we try to highlight or emphasize the American experience. But we have stellar pieces from outside the U.S. as well. The original development of modern folk art, contemporary folk art, was sponsored by Jean Dubuffet in Switzerland, in France and Switzerland, and he created the Musée l'Art Brut in Lausanne. We have art of some of the similar artists in our collection from Switzerland and Spain and India, but primarily our collection is American.
Give me the highlights of the current exhibition that's going on at the museum now.
We just opened an exhibition called Jubilation Rumination. The name is important because it was a chance for us to ruminate about the trials that we talked about before the break, but also to be jubilant about our future now that we've committed to independence and we have a little financial ballast under us to do some exciting things in the future.
Do you have to keep reminding people that the Folk Art Museum is in, operation and that you've got the exhibitions?
The typical conversation about the Folk Art Museum today is, oh, I thought you went out of business. And we say, no, we're very much back. And this exhibition at our Lincoln Square Gallery on 66 in Columbus is a great reminder of why we're such an important museum, we're an exciting museum for people to see. It's a combination of traditional folk art from the 18th and 19th centuries and contemporary art by the self-taught, sometimes called outsider art. It's a great combination, very exciting visually, and all kinds of works that people will really enjoy.
We'll have to go, all right?
I hope
we'll
so.
do a tour. All right, I thank you very much for coming in. Monty Blanchard, you're the President, Board of Trustees, American Museum of Folk Art. Coming up, Bloomberg West has the top technology stories of the day. Thanks for taking stock. I'm Kim Fox. Good night.